The diplomatic summit was supposed to be humanity's greatest achievement in interstellar relations. Captain Jake Morrison stood at attention beside the ornate chamber where Queen Lyra of the Vellani Empire would sign the historic peace treaty between their species. After decades of brutal warfare across 3-star systems, this moment represented hope for both civilizations. Jake watched the massive crystalline doors slide open as Queen Lyra entered the chamber. She moved with otherworldly grace, her tall figure draped in flowing robes that shimmered like liquid starlight. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow with an inner luminescence, and her large violet eyes surveyed the assembled delegates with a regal composure. 4 elegant arms gestured ceremoniously as she approached the signing table, her crown of living coral pulsing with soft bioluminescent patterns. The human delegation had prepared for months for this meeting. Ambassador Collins nervously adjusted his formal uniform while the security team maintained their positions around the perimeter. Jake remained focused on his duty as head of the protective detail, scanning every corner of the vast chamber for potential threats. The ceremony began with traditional Vellani chants that echoed through the crystalline halls. Queen Lyra's melodious voice joined the chorus as she performed the ancient rituals required before any formal agreement. Jake found himself captivated by the alien queen's presence, though he quickly refocused on his responsibilities. As the queen approached the signing podium, Jake noticed movement in the shadows of the upper galleries. His enhanced vision caught the glint of metal and the distinctive curve of a Vellani hunting bow. The archer wore the dark ceremonial garb of the extremist faction that opposed the peace treaty. Jake's blood ran cold as he realized the assassin had somehow bypassed all security measures. Time seemed to slow as the archer drew back the ornate arrow, its tip gleaming with the telltale purple sheen of Vellani nerve poison. The weapon was aimed directly at Queen Lyra's heart. Jake knew that even a scratch from that arrow would kill her within seconds, and with her death, any hope of peace would die as well. Without hesitation, Jake launched himself forward. His powerful legs carried him across the chamber in 3 massive strides. The archer released the arrow just as Jake threw himself between the projectile and the queen. A poisoned tip pierced his shoulder, sending waves of agony through his body as the alien toxin began its deadly work. Lyra spun around in shock as Jake collapsed at her feet. Her violet eyes widened as she saw the arrow protruding from his shoulder and the purple veins already spreading from the wound. The chamber erupted in chaos as security forces swarmed toward the galleries. But the assassin had already vanished into the labyrinthine passages above. The queen knelt beside Jake, her 4 hands moving with practiced precision as she examined the wound. Her medical knowledge was extensive, as all Vellani royalty were trained in the healing arts. She immediately recognized that the poison would kill him within minutes without intervention. Jake struggled to remain conscious as the toxin coursed through his bloodstream. He looked up at the alien queen and managed to speak through gritted teeth. "Had to protect you. The peace depends on it." Queen Lyra was stunned by his sacrifice. In Vellani culture, taking a death blow meant for another was the highest possible honor, reserved only for the most sacred bonds between individuals. No outsider had ever made such a sacrifice for Vellani royalty. Her hands trembled as she reached for the medical kit from her ceremonial robes. Working quickly, she injected Jake with a powerful antidote that would slow the poison's effects. The treatment was agonizing, but it bought precious time for her. Physicians to arrive. She cradled his head in her upper arms, while her lower hands worked to stabilize his vital signs. The royal medical team rushed into the chamber with advanced life support equipment. They worked frantically to counteract the poison's effects, while Queen Lyra refused to leave Jake's side. Her presence seemed to give him strength as he fought against the toxin trying to shut down his nervous system. Hours passed before the doctors declared that Jake would survive. The antidote had worked, though he would need weeks of recovery time. Queen Lyra remained in the medical bay throughout his treatment, much to the confusion of her advisors. When Jake finally regained consciousness, she was the first person he saw. She explained that according to ancient Velani law, his sacrifice had created a life debt that could only be repaid through the highest honor their society could offer. She wanted him to become her mate and co-ruler of the Velani Empire. The proposal shocked both the human and Velani delegations. As interspecies unions were unprecedented in either culture. Jake was overwhelmed by the magnitude of her offer. Becoming the consort of an alien queen would mean leaving behind everything he had ever known. His family, his career, his entire human identity would be transformed. Yet as he looked into Queen Lyra's violet eyes, he saw genuine affection alongside political necessity. The queen explained that their union would solidify the peace treaty in ways that mere signatures never could. Their bond would serve as a living symbol of cooperation between their species. More importantly, she confessed that his selfless act had awakened feelings she had never experienced before. Jake spent days considering her proposal while recovering from his injuries. He spoke with Ambassador Collins about the political implications and video called his family on Earth to discuss the personal costs. Everyone agreed that such a union could ensure lasting peace between the civilizations. When Jake finally gave his answer, it sent shockwaves through both governments. He accepted Queen Lyra's proposal, but with conditions. He would serve as her mate and co-ruler, but he wanted to maintain connections to humanity and help establish cultural exchange programs between their peoples. The wedding ceremony combined traditions from both species in an unprecedented celebration. Jake stood beside Queen Lyra as they exchanged vows in front of representatives from across the galaxy. His simple human words of commitment were translated into the musical Velani language, while her complex four-armed gestures were explained. To the human delegation. Their marriage marked the beginning of a new era in interstellar relations. Jake brought human pragmatism and innovation to Velani governance, while learning to appreciate their emphasis on harmony and spiritual connection. Queen Lyra embraced human concepts of individual freedom, while sharing Velani wisdom about collective responsibility. Years later, their children would become the first generation to truly belong to both worlds, serving as bridges between species that had once been mortal enemies. The poisoned arrow that nearly ended Queen Lyra's life instead became the catalyst for the greatest alliance in galactic history. Chat controls Sonnet 4.